We are back for another Money Moves. So I tell you what, I don't know about you. I can't wait for spring. Cannot wait for spring. I feel like
I need to migrate south in the winter.
What's that?
I need to migrate south in the winter.
I'm telling you, I see why people do it. I mean, even just for the sun, it's been so gloomy and cloudy here. And even when the sun does pop out, it's too cold to do anything. And I'm like, I need some sun. I'm getting like pasty. I'm starting to blend in with paper. I mean, it's kind of like, okay, not a good day, not a good day. But that's not why we're here to talk about today. What we're going to talk about today are the top 5 challenges women face when building wealth. So grab your friends, do us a little favor, click that little subscribe button and share this with somebody that you know that could use this help, because it's important. We're all talking about money moves and how to build wealth, not just for retirement, but wealth for throughout your life. And we want to help you. And so women out there, we've got a special event coming up, which we're going to talk about, right, Wendy?
Yes.
And we're going to talk today, though, about the top 5 women challenges that women face in addition to what everybody else faces in building wealth. So we'll get started in just a second. Reach out to some ladies that you know and say, hey, get on blackswanmoney.com right now or Facebook or however you're watching this and share this video. We get started in just a second. And we're back. So this is good stuff. So Wendy, I mean, we've talked about this. Obviously, we all go through challenges when it comes to building wealth, right? At least I did. I don't know about you, but it's one of those things that it's a challenge when you're building wealth, and we'll talk a little bit about that. That's a whole other video. But we've got an event coming up. What's the event, Wendy?
Women in Wealth.
Women in Wealth.
Most popular event.
When is that?
It is on not this coming Thursday, but next Thursday night. Last Thursday of the month, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Central.
So there you go. So we'll have the link for registration and everything in the video below. But yeah, if you're available, we'd love to have you there and bring some female friends. Wendy is going to be co-hosting it with another female advisor that works with the Turning Point Group, which is part of the Black Swan Money, the financial backer of Black Swan Money. But, looking at the basic challenges that we all deal with, number one, we let money trickle away from us. And what do I mean by that? We don't keep tabs on it. We're not intentional about it, right? I always tell people, think of it like a bucket, and you're putting all your life in there and all your wealth and stuff like that. Well, there's all these holes in the bucket that we don't realize, like, eating lunch out, all those subscriptions. We've done videos on that, right? And, just all that stuff. And then, we also, Wendy, you've had some great content on this about looking, what we do typically in the traditional sense is look at income or as a linear point of view, right? Meaning I've got the one job and I want to get that promotion and get that raise, or I'm going to get that review at the end of the year and get my 3% bonus, or my 3% increase to keep up with inflation like that. And that's really how you look at it. And that's a real hard way to build wealth. One stream of income, you're waiting on somebody to die to get a promotion, that kind of thing. Number 3 is that live for today mindset. And we've talked about that a number of times. We don't take advantage of time, right? That compounding time that you need to build real wealth. We look at everything today. What's going on? What am I going to do for this year to next year? I want to reward myself today, that instant gratification. And then paying too much for things, right? We finance it. That's what the way middle class looks at money. They use income and money to build credit to buy things on time, meaning monthly payment. And so they end up paying much more than the actual item's worth. And if you're out there doing the buy here, pay here, or the payday loans or things like that, you're paying way more for it. The rent to own centers and things like that. And then finally, it all boils down to just not knowing how money works. And that's what Black Swan Money is all about, is building that knowledge base. But let's kick it over to the top 5 challenges women face, because women face that, what we just talked about, but there's stuff that's specific to women. So they've got like 10 challenges instead of 5, right? So number 1, you kick us off with that one. I mean, you're a woman, right? So let's talk about this. What are the additional challenges that women face?
Yeah, the first one is still traditionally women earn less than our male peers in the corporate world. And so I see that in the corporate world. And then even in online business, I see like coaches and stuff. It seems like there's more trust in a man sometimes, and they're able to charge more for services. And so I definitely in my corporate career saw many times in my own life that I was paid less than my male counterparts. And, you know, I had the struggle of like, it's like these older guys I worked with look at me as this young girl, right? That's just like not, but they would look at a guy the same age as me as more of their peer and me less than that. And so, and I, you know, I don't, you make your own path, right? And I don't play into that as an excuse to not, you know, overcome those things, but it is definitely a challenge that we still have to face, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, and I get that, and I've known you, and gotten to know you through this this course, through the Black Swan Money and stuff like that, and working together on the financial side. But you know, I know you're a baller, and I've got to imagine that's frustrating. You know, it's one of those things that you know, you don't see that, and that's why entrepreneurship is the way to go. I mean, write your own path, definitely. But if that's not for you and you're in the, you know, in the corporate world, and I think corporations have come a long way, you know, in kind of leveling that playing field, but there's still a variance. Number two, Number two, you know, is, and you see this with women too, is more likely to take time off, right? I know when, you know, I was younger and newly married, you know, my spouse took time off and from work, and that impacted her career for a while we had younger children. That's common, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And just, you know, those gaps in the career, one, cause us, obviously we're not earning in those years. And two, when we go back to work, it's, you know, kind of starting at a lower level of income. So the income's greatly affected. You know, I see a lot of resumes, and I see people put, you know, career break, and it's like 15 years on there or whatever. And I love that. Like, I love that women have the option to do that. Yeah. Right. I think anyone that's able to do that should do that. But in that journey, you know, you're losing the time of growth that you could be putting money away. And then you're also losing the earning potential.
Well, yeah, and I would think too that, you know, things change during that period, right? You know, you take a couple of years. I mean, I'm not just talking about time off for the pregnancy, but I'm talking about, you know, staying home with the kids and things like that. And I'm a big believer, family's priority, right? And so, I mean, I applaud those women that are out there doing that, but it creates a challenge that, you know, coming back into the workforce, and okay, now my industry's changed, especially if it's involved in technology, things like that. I mean, you can quickly catch up. But you know, that's definitely a big factor. And then, you know, I've found, you know, I've been doing planning now for 9 years, coming up on my 10th year, been in finance for 20 plus. But I have found that typically, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but women tend to lean a little more towards wealth safety rather than wealth growth. So I mean, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny because in any couple that we talk to, especially when they have kids, you always, like, when we get to the point of the conversation when we're talking about, like, you know, how much you want to save, or how aggressive you want to, you know, like, what's your risk tolerance? The men are always like, yeah, let's go, let's do, you know, they're way more risky, not always, but most of the time more risky. And the women are like, well, but what about, right? Because we're focused on, like, today, taking care of our family, especially when we have little ones. It's like today is more important than our retirement, because we're so focused on that mother hen, like those kids, you know, in the here and now. So yeah, so we're more like, let's not lose the money rather than focus on the growth. I completely see that.
And even taking that a step further, I mean, and this is kind of a shout out to you know, women for, obviously, that, I don't want to call it that nesting thing, that's a psychological term, but it's that, you know, protection, you know, of the family unit, right? Whatever your family's made up to be. And it's one of those things that, you know, if you take that a step further, though, and I would challenge women to look at this, that even relays into the legacy planning, right? And so if you're focused just on safety today, you're creating a situation where you're not going to have good growth for tomorrow. And it's not just about retirement. I mean, a lot of people, you know, companies are out there, hey, let's talk about retirement. I like to talk about wealth over retirement, because I want to build something that, you know, my clients have access to throughout their, their adulthood, not just when they're 65, 67, or whatever that number is. But, looking at that next step, legacy planning should be a big part of your wealth strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Because if not, what happens, you end up creating the same problems, or your children go through those same challenges and struggles that you went through. So each generation, it's like this vicious cycle of, we almost got there. And then, we almost got there. So that's where really that mindset shift, and for men and women, but, women, hear me out, is looking at that safety, not just today, but the safety through the generations. And then all of a sudden you start thinking, and you start, really kind of a mindset shift, if you will. And so I would challenge, men and women alike out there to start thinking about that legacy piece. And it's biblical too. I don't, if you, whatever book you refer to or whatever, I read the Bible. And it talks about, setting up your future, your children and your children's children. Right. And so how do you do that? How do you protect that wealth? There's a lot of strategies out there. So I don't know if you have any.
And on that, like I've seen, that's something I never thought about. Like I thought I had to be rich to be able to leave.
No.
Right. I was thinking, okay, I got to build the income in order to leave the inheritance. And what I've learned through the work I've done with you is that you don't have to. Like, you can set things up in such a way that you're creating wealth for future generations, even without a ton of money right now. Mm-hmm. Right. And that there's ways and strategies to do that. And so, and when we talk to families and when we talk about legacy planning and kind of tickle what's possible, mm-hmm. that's when the women, the moms are like, wait, tell me more. Right. Yeah. So it's definitely eye-opening.
Well, and even setting them up, I mean, through $1 Million Baby program or something like that. I mean, you can actually set your children up to be millionaires when they retire. Not that you just want to leave them a bunch of money, but you obviously want to have that education along with it. But there's a lot of things you can do and not be wealthy today, right? Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of adding a little bit of time, a little bit of money. And that session you're talking about, Women in Wealth, they actually talk about the wealth formula. How do you actually do that? What are all the mechanisms of that, and kind of go into a little detail. But, and then number 4, the fourth challenge for women is, and I guess this is for the guys too, in a traditional sense, husband, wife, and I'm talking a traditional, structure. Unfortunately, we die first. The men die first, right? Mm-hmm. In most cases, statistically speaking. And that's just, typically we're a little older because of that little risk, that riskier lifestyle, right? You end up creating some issues and health issues and things like that. So we end up passing away, which leaves, the spouse, the wife, without any kind of like, okay, now what do I do? I'm in a single income situation now. Many times, and I've seen this in many, many cases, they're not really involved in the finances as much. You do have some women that, that's their role in that relationship, is they do the finances. But in most cases, it's the male, the husband that takes care of that. And so the spouse, the wife, is kind of left out in the cold of, I don't know really what's going on. Mm-hmm. And that sets up a huge issue as you start going into those later years, when you hit that red zone, if you will, of retirement. And it can create some huge issues. They're going to be by themselves, single income, not really knowing what's going on with the finances. And they may have had something set up, but because they don't know how everything works or how money works, they end up going through it quickly, or somebody can come in and kind of give you some bad advice and you don't really understand, that it's bad advice. Right. So what are your thoughts on that, Wendy?
Yeah. I mean, I lived to see all of my great grandmothers and none of my great grandfathers. So they were all gone way before. And one of the things too is like that, a lot of times when people are thinking about retirement and their number of years in retirement, and if they're doing the traditional way, we've talked about building the asset and then spending it down as far as just a pile of cash. The women do live so much longer. And I think a lot of times in planning aren't even taking that into account, that, like my great grandmothers all lived into their 90s. Yeah. Whereas my great grandfathers were gone by 75. And so that's 15 more years of life. And we've talked about this before, but people's greatest fear in their older age is not death. It's outliving their money.
Yeah.
And that's what most of them have done in my family. And because of that lack of knowledge, not planning the right way, and not expecting to live as long as they did.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's one of those that you need to operate and have a conversation on your finances as a family unit, right? Not your children, but the spouse, the husband and spouse, or the husband and wife, whatever the case may be. You want to do that together, even though it may be one person's strong suit. And I always encourage my clients, I'm like, grab a bottle of wine, every couple of weeks, get together and have a quick 30-minute, hour long financial meeting for your family. Pay your bills that are due at that point in the month and talk about where we at. What are our goals? Have some goals and dreams financially on what you want to accomplish, not just in the next few months of taking the kids to Disney World over the summer, but what do you want to do in a year? What do you want to do in 5 years? Start talking about that stuff, because the more you talk about it, the more comfortable you're going to be about it. And the more you can be intentional about building that wealth. So that's a key factor. And stay involved. If you're working with a planner today, and I'm speaking to the women out there, if you're working with a planner today that their entire conversation is with your husband and they just look at you and kind of smile and nod, but they're talking to the husband, that's probably not the financial planner you want to work with, right? And I'm not saying they don't know their stuff or anything like that, but you want to have somebody that's in line with your personality and your goals. And I'm talking about the family unit, right? In women, you want to be involved in that conversation so you're not caught unprepared or by an unexpected death or something like that. So, and then number 5, Wendy, what's that?
The thing I never knew about till I met you, and then I'm like, oh man, this is a real thing.
It's true. It's true.
The pink tax.
Yep.
So women, we just pay more for stuff. I mean, bottom line. And it's so funny. I actually thought about this the other day because for some reason I got an ad for Fabletics or something for men's workout clothes. And I'm like, they're cheaper than the women's in the same line. I'm like, what the heck? But seriously, women, we pay more for, I think we're
everything.
We're maybe a little more high maintenance. We pay for more things to keep ourselves pretty. But as far as just the standard, clothing.
I'm talking shampoo, deodorant, clothes. It's made from the same material. I guarantee that same brand, they use the same materials, just different cuts, right? Mm-hmm. But for whatever reason, women's items, and next time you go to the grocery store or you go to the convenience store or whatever, like a Walmart or a big box store or something like that, women, I want to challenge you. Look at your stuff that you got in the cart and then just swing by over on the men's side and see what you would pay for the equivalent, right? Whether it's shampoo or whatever the case may be. Razors, right?
I pay more, literally.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that there's a variance there, but I think that women are more apt to spend that money, and our economy is built on marketing, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it is. There's a billions and billions of dollars spent to get you to buy stuff that you don't need, right? And sometimes with money you don't have, right? But it's one of those that women, that marketing machine is really geared towards a higher cost for multitude of items. So I would challenge every woman out there to go out and kind of look at that. And I'd love to hear in the comments below if you think we're wrong on that. But there's definitely a pink tax out there, and that's something that women pay for it. So just to kind of recap, okay. Number 1, traditionally earn less than their male peers, right? Number 2, more likely to take time off from your career for family items, things like that. Number 3, they're more focused on wealth safety over wealth growth. Number 4, more likely to outlive their spouse, which that's not a bad thing, but there's money involved to it. So you got to understand how it all works and, plan for that, long-term care needs and things like that. And then number 5, obviously what Wendy just brought up is you're actually paying more for stuff because of the pink tax, which means you're able to put less away, especially in a single income household. If you're, divorced or you've never married, young and haven't married, or you're later in life and haven't married, so you've got to account for all that when you're trying to build wealth. So anything else to add, Wendy?
No, that about covers it. I think we hit all the big points.
So we've got a Women in Wealth event. Highly, highly encourage you, and make a little party out of it. Grab some of your friends and have them over, bottle of wine or whatever, and watch the event. It's a great event. I'll probably be in attendance. I won't be speaking there, but you'll get to see Miss Wendy and another lady, a financial advisor by the name of Melissa Harris on there, giving some great information that you can use to help. And we'll have the registration link in the comments below. But everybody make it a great day, and don't sit back and wait for your wealth to just happen for you. You've got to make some money moves and go out there and get yours. Bye-bye, everybody. We'll see you next week. Click that subscribe button, show some love, and share it with your friends on your social media. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.